Hey everybody, welcome back to Escape Reality Star Wars Talk. I'm your host Caleb.
Hi, I'm Seth. I talk Star Wars with this man.
All right, and we got some news as well as we're going to talk
Mhm.
about Jedi Survivor.
Yes.
But we got a couple of things to talk about. First off, unfortunately, there has been a recent death. Ray Stevenson died at the age of 58. He was in shot in the Ahsoka film. They are or show. They already got him set up as Balin's skull. Um, I'm looking over the article right now to see more specifics. Apparently, he was admitted to local hospital in Italy after suffering an illness while filming on set for another film. Um, Apparently, he had contracted the illness while on set and was sent to the hospital and unfortunately passed away from it. They do not go into the specifics of what illness. Um, He had also been in Rebels as the voice of Gar Saxon, and in Clone Wars. He was in Rome, Thor, The Three Musketeers, and RRR. So, um, sad note to start on, but just wanted to talk about it because technically Star Wars news, but also he was a respectable actor. I liked a lot of his work. Um, you didn't know him as much of his work.
Yeah.
Um,
RRR?
yeah. Oh, is that a film you're actually familiar with? I've wanted to watch it because it looks good, but
I've seen
I've
a reaction to it. I think he played one of the main antagonists.
yeah, I believe you're right. Yeah, because I think I saw a reaction
Yeah.
too, and so it made me interested in the film, but I haven't gone around it. Actually, I know exactly whose reaction it was that I saw. It was Star Wars Explained. Alex, he had watched it and he'd recommended it. I haven't gone to see it yet. It's
Hmm.
on like Netflix, I think.
Might be.
But yeah, I liked him. I liked a lot of his work. I liked him in Rome, um, which is a show I'm definitely gonna have to show you now.
Hmm.
Um, and so
Alright.
uh, on a lighter note,
Yes.
Ming Na Wen, she's getting a
Hmm.
star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Yep.
I think it's
About time.
about time. I mean, we were talking about it like the stars aren't really real. They don't mean anything. It's kind of more of a respect thing, but also on the flip side, they do have to pay to get the star.
Yeah.
Um, but I do like that she is being acknowledged for her work because Ming Na Wen is, I think, a fantastic actress. Um, Now for a bit of a rant from me.
Yeah, you have a few of those.
I have a few lined up today, but we're gonna
We're
start
gonna
off.
start with this one.
Yeah, we're gonna start with this one, and this has to do with Disney Plus and Hulu removing some shows and films.
Hmm.
Particularly since we talk Lucasfilm stuff as well. Willow is being removed, which a lot of people were hoping we'd get a season 2, but it looks like we're not. Um, in fact, we're getting the opposite. We're losing Willow content now, and it's even worse because no home release for Disney Plus shows. And I get it. It's the direction that TV and movie studios are going, and that they are doing, and video games even, which leads into my later rant, that they are doing less and less physical home releases. Doesn't mean I have to like it. And in fact, I hate it. It actually, it actually infuriates me because it's ironic that the studio that comes from the man who went out of his way to make sure that film and was preserved, because Lucas is known for trying to preserve film, although he has his own irony in that as well with how he treated the original Star Wars trilogy and how you can't watch the original versions of the original Star Wars films. There's some irony in that too, but the fact that we're losing content because Willow will now be Unless you go on the high seas, Willow is gone forever. Or will be, once it's removed. And then the movie and TV studios are going to ask, why are people going on the high seas to get our shows and movies? Maybe because you don't have them anywhere for them to watch them. Because history has shown, at least in film, television, music, the less available that movie, show, or song is, the more likely people pirate. Because most people don't pirate things that are easily available.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just out with it now. I've been hinting. Pirating. People are going to pirate. I mean, because back when I'll be honest, I mean, just like everybody else, I pirated things back in the day. For me, it was a lot of video games, but it was because I wanted to try those games out, and then if I like them, yeah, I'd go support it once I had the money.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's how a lot of people who pirate treat pirating, at least the majority. There's the few out there that will just pirate to pirate. But I think the majority of everyday people only pirate because of either a lack of availability to get it, or because they want to try something out, and then when they have the money, they'll support the creator. Especially if it's a smaller creator.
Yeah.
Like, especially smaller creators, people tend to support them after the fact if they can afford it. So I think this is just going to cause more of that. Because how else are people going to watch Willow?
I don't have a very strong emotional connection to this.
No.
But, like, I understand it. Like, that is the end result of how these things will probably turn out.
Yep. And I understand from a business point of why they're doing it. They want to supposedly save money. But, yes, by providing less content, people are going to be driven to your website.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on in marketing, or
especially when these are shows. Like, I get it. These are all original because like we went through the list. All of this is original like because it's Disney Plus.
Yeah.
So they made the content. It's not Netflix where there's any licensing of content. So they made all this content. It's already paid for, and a lot of these things, in fact, have already been like probably written into the tax books for the years that they came out. Taxes for them are already done. Same thing and you probably already made your money back on some of these shows that like Turner and Hooch was a show that came out when the app came out, 2020. So like, you've made your Disney Plus money off that show already. You've lost any money that you're gonna lose from that show already, especially since it's a canceled show. It wasn't getting any more seasons. I didn't know Big Shot was canceled, but Big Shot is also on this list. These are non-Lucasfilm stuff, but like I watch a lot of Disney Plus shows just out of curiosity, and some of them I like that like nobody heard of. Like Big Shot, I thought was fine. It's a basketball type. It's a sports drama, so. And it's about like ex-coach taking on a girls basketball team at a girls school, and it's the main coach is played by John Stamos, so Uncle Jesse from Full House. And he's like an ex NBA coach who like got no, not NBA, ex boys college coach who's like been shunned from like big basketball because of like being one of those hot-headed coaches who threw chairs at refs and all that. So it's about him trying to learn to not do that stuff while also dealing with the girls' drama because it's an all-girls school.
Of course.
So It's a fascinating show in my opinion. If you like sports dramas, if not, then it's like sports drama, high school drama show. Anyways, but then you got the Mysterious Benedict Society also, which I didn't know they were canceling either because I thought they were still trying to adapt some of those books because it's based off a book series, a kids book series. It's pretty interesting. Mighty Ducks Game Changers. I didn't know where else they could go honestly after season 2, but I also didn't know that it was canceled.
Sometimes it's best to let things
Yeah.
end.
Like season 2 had some potential for where season 3 could go, but I didn't know where. I mean, they introduced another love interest. I mean, they couldn't use Emilio Estevez because they had already fired him before season 2. So, I mean, that's really one of the big draws to the Mighty Ducks because that's the head coach. That's Coach Bombay.
Yeah.
I mean,
but
yeah,
I have no strong feelings about this either way.
no, like for me, it's more just a loss of art and the inability to be able to access it, and it's becoming more and more as we get further away from physical media.
Yeah.
And it's something that's also going to come up in my later rant.
Should we just go over to that then?
We'll start with the good stuff before I rant.
Okay.
But that's essentially it for Star Wars Lucasfilm news. I mean, there's other like the worst part about this is, and Star Wars Newsnet makes a note of this in their article about it, that it's pretty coincidental that we're losing stuff on Disney Plus while the writer's strike is still going.
Yeah.
And it's even more coincidental considering that, like we talked about last week, one of the reasons they're striking is for better revenue from the streaming services of TV shows and movies that these writers work on, where they barely get the revenue from it compared to what they would get on like traditional television. Meanwhile, streaming services are giving studios way more money because they've cut out the middleman of a regular TV studio.
Sorry.
No, you're fine.
From the...
But yeah, like I was saying, they cut out the middleman, and now... Yeah.
Welcome to America.
Welcome to capitalism.
Yes.
Do we want to talk about... I mean, I know we don't make it an official segment, but do we want to talk about our week? I mean,
Sure,
we traditionally do anyways.
Yeah. Whew.
So we played part 2 of the one-shot for your
Yes.
for the birthday one-shot.
Yeah. Fuck Fieri. I hate him.
So I don't think we talked about him much last time.
No.
Because we tried to avoid any major spoilers. And I think we'll still, for the most part, avoid spoilers because I do plan to release it as content. But yeah, y'all ran into a character that screwed y'all over. And y'all almost TPK'd.
So angry.
Like twice.
Yeah.
Twice in the one session, y'all almost TPK'd. It doesn't help that y'all couldn't really rest between fights.
Yeah.
Because of being caught in the Tavern of the Lost.
Yep.
Where you could sleep as long as y'all slept in the right room. You wouldn't get the best rest, and it also would have been 8 hours for
8 hours for
a
a
short
rest
rest
for this one.
Yeah.
And 3 days for
3 days for a long rest, which I assume for the long rest that includes like downtime in the world of Grim Hollow. But yeah, y'all.
I guess one of the benefits of me...
Y'all are definitely taking that 3-day rest, though, in between
in
between adventures.
Yeah, one of the benefits for me was primarily being a ranged fighter.
Yeah, although in the final fight, y'all got up close and personal.
Yep.
Until y'all pissed off the final boss a little bit, and he's just...
He's like...
He stopped strategizing a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah. I'm also now working on another one-shot. I haven't for sure figured out if we're going to do it yet or not, but I am working on it just so that way if we do.
A much more a lighter tone.
Yeah, this one's going to be more comedic high fantasy.
Yeah, as opposed
to grim dark fantasy. Yeah. With a little bit of Eldritch sprinkled in. So yeah.
Also, I saw the like little thing you posted about like, oh, the sensible player. And I'm gonna admit.
Oh, that TikTok I found. Yeah,
I am not the most sensible player.
Yeah, who was the most sensible player in that party? I don't think we had one.
No, we didn't.
I think everybody was kind of just ready to go.
Yeah, we were on go for that entire game.
We were also on a time crunch though because we were trying to wrap that session up a little bit faster than the first session.
Yep.
We did not because both fights for that session. Well, 2 out of the 3 because there were 3 fights.
There were 3.
2 out of the 3 fights were very long.
And I'm thinking about it.
The first fight was the fastest.
I'm 90% sure we had already fought that fucking mimic.
No, y'all prepared to, but we didn't.
Okay, then.
Because I think I ended it just before that fight because I knew... No, y'all went down there and y'all were like, oh, we're going to have to fight this now because I showed that it was hostile. Yeah. But I cut that because I was like, oh, we'll have to part 2 that.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I'm not going to get us into a fight.
When it's already like
1:30 in the morning. Yeah. So I was just like, we're going to... And... Because the Mimic fight, though, was the shortest out of those 3 fights. Mimic fight, y'all took that out pretty quick.
Oh.
And then we had some death. We did have a death, but it was an NPC death.
Yep.
Still hurt y'all, though.
Yeah.
Although one of y'all was expecting it. One of y'all was like, yeah, this person's going to die.
I knew. I knew when I made my choice.
So are you taking accountability for bringing them along, or?
Well, someone has to.
They were 40-something. They can make their own choices. That's a joke because of some stuff in the game, but I'm leaving it there.
Oh,
for that's for us and for the audience to find out whenever I upload it.
God.
Yeah, they were 40-something. They knew what they were doing.
Man, I don't know what it was about Steve's character, but it seems he was like bound and determined to get himself killed. Yeah,
because he downed twice, because he was the start of the TPKs both times. Well, no, actually, the final boss fight he downed after 2 other people did.
Yeah,
because Kiari and Chris got down. No,
Andrew.
Kiari and Drew got down first. Yeah,
like. Andrew just rolled bad on that one, and I was like, I remember discussing with him. I was like, yeah, no, 33 health is about the average for that. And I remember like both me and Steve had the reaction of like, oh, this guy can upcast to 7th level.
Well, he could only do it the once though, which is why the next time he only did 6.
We were both like, oh no.
Yeah, because he's a 13th level. Of that level, of that class. I don't want to reveal the class because I think that's going to reveal too much about the plot twist.
I'm like,
but yeah,
apparently, and for me, I think this is the in-universe character, the in-universe reason why Boone is the leader of the group. Fucking good instincts on who not to trust.
Well, you and Steve had that instinct.
Brought that fucker with us.
But he had the instinct after, like, when that thing happened.
When that thing happened.
Yeah. Although I love that I threw you guys off immediately with that. Because it was a red herring.
Yeah.
But yeah. Okay, we can talk about something else so that way we can avoid being vague about stuff that happened.
Video game.
Okay, we want to go into that? Nothing else exciting going on?
Well, There's an old man in my yard. He's not there anymore.
Oh yeah,
But I won't
yeah now
really
yeah
talk about
we
that.
don't have to talk about that.
I'm
and he
glad
showed-
you're okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I haven't publicly talked about that yet.
Yeah.
I got myself in an accident,
Mm.
in a car accident.
Yeah.
I'm fine. The other person's fine. Right now, the big hurt is how much it's gonna cost to fix the
Yep.
car. Thankfully, though, the car, because I hadn't updated you on that yet.
Yeah.
Last you knew, I dropped the car off, and we'd had no idea
Yeah.
if it was totaled or not. It is not totaled, so they are fixing it. It's just gonna, I mean, even with insurance, because you still have the deductible,
Mm-hmm.
coming out to $500.
Ouch.
But hey, insurance covers the rest of it, and that's what's what's insurance for? It's for when these type of things happen.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm just glad the other person's okay because I felt awful. But thankfully they were fine. All their passengers were fine. I was fine,
Yep.
although they were worried about me because I had glass on me when I got out. But yeah, other than that, everything's.
All right.
I did take the next day to recover up until D&D night, with which we finished your campaign.
Yeah, we did. Oh god.
Because that was
The endings for those three characters could not
have
be
been like any
more different.
Yeah.
I remember.
So
yeah.
a
go
little
on.
background. Villain campaign.
Yes.
It was a conquer the world campaign. We conquered the world. Well, most of it. We made some deals with some of the people that we didn't want to deal with. And then you had us write our epilogues for our characters. I wrote 1.5
Yeah.
because I had 2 characters throughout the campaign, so I wanted to write something for my character who had died because we canonically made it to where yes he's dead, but we're ruling on D&D rules where like he's in Avernus.
Death isn't
Because
quite the end.
yeah, death isn't quite the end in D&D. In case you've never played D&D or you know anything about the Forgotten Realms, which your campaign doesn't take place in, but
There are elements there
that are similar enough.
similar enough.
And on top of that, like really the idea of D&D's settings is that you could hop to any of them through planar travel.
Hmm.
So like Forgotten Realms is still canon to your campaign even if it never appears in your campaign. So Avernus would realistically be where any dead characters go because it's just that's the dead plane. That's where people go when they die.
Yep.
At least the bad ones. No, that's where all people go. Actually, I think it's like Greek, where dead people just all go to the same place.
Hmm.
I just think you get to a better part of Avernus if you're.
a better part.
You go to the good neighborhood if you're. If you're a good person, because nobody goes to Mount Celestial except for gods and angels.
I'm trying to think about like.
Because Zariel used to live there until.
Yeah.
And Zariel was just an angel. She wasn't a god.
Yeah, the other thing that, for lack of a better term, is canon to the homebrew setting is the Beastlands.
Oh yeah.
So that's another possible afterlife.
So yeah, so that just like kind of
Yeah.
proves my point of all the planar travel and all that. Yeah, so it makes it possible to where that could happen. But yeah, so little setup on my character who lived for the rest of it.
Yes.
Belwyn. He was a Dampier cleric, so half vampire, half human in this case.
Yep.
Dampier are usually half vampire or whatever, and they get like. If you've ever seen Blade, or if you've read the comics, you know what a Dampier is because Blade's a Dampier.
Mm-hmm.
Except D&D Dampiers, you can do more vampiric stuff than Blade does. Like you can actually literally climb walls and ceilings, which is I made use of that a couple times. But the basic premise of Belwyn's backstory was that it was vampire Hamlet.
Yeah.
Except if he got everything wrong. Except he did the one thing that Hamlet should have done, but he was wrong in doing it.
Yep.
Because the one thing Hamlet should have done, if he was a smart character, which Shakespeare makes it clear in his work, Hamlet overthinks. He's a smart guy. He's book smart, but he overthinks.
Bunch of smart dumbasses.
Yeah, but I mean, have you ever read Hamlet?
Yes, I had to.
So
you
know what I'm talking about. He's book smart, but he overthinks, and because of his overthinking,
I can't kill Uncle Claudius now while he's praying, because if I do it now, he'll go to heaven. Because God is all about fairness. Fuck you, Hamlet. Kill him now.
But yeah, so the one thing that Hamlet could have done and should have done was raise that army. Which, instead of doing it himself, he sends his buddy to do, who then dies.
Whoops.
You should have done it yourself. That's exactly what Belwyn does. Belwyn says, you know what, I'm going to raise an army.
Yep.
Because
it occurs to me that by the end of this campaign, Belwyn has killed his own family twice.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because of the epilogue, yeah. Just different members.
Yep.
Different instances. So with Hamlet, the Hamlet trope, though, we changed some things.
Yes.
One, we made it to where instead of a ghost of Hamlet's dad, we made it a zombie who is not at all Belwyn's father and is actually just pretending to be Belwyn's father because we decided that the zombie hated the politics of like the vampires and the Dampiers and all that, and was basically like a man of the poor people and said fuck the nobility, and so he decided to fuck with Belwyn, and it worked. Making him think he was his father and lying to him and saying, yeah, my brother killed me. Although, we did have Belwyn's uncle and mother still get together.
Yes.
But that was because, like, they just naturally, came together. Like, it wasn't we planned this like it is in Hamlet.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was the major changes to the Hamlet plotline. At the end of the day, the other major change is Belwyn wins.
Yep.
He never learns the truth, though. Like,
no.
I don't think any of them actually, like, I think his uncle gets Uncle Amaro, his uncle, gets the closest to saying what really went down.
So.
But he died before anything could really be resolved.
In order to change it up, I was like, well, zombies have to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
And I was like, it'd be pretty fucked up. And this was about as far as my brain went with about how much I had planned for this to go.
Yeah.
I'm like, vampires don't exactly, they lose humanity as time progresses.
Yeah.
I was like, it'd be real fucked up if your not cousin decided I'm going to resurrect this zombie and go send it to fuck with Belwyn.
Oh, so I can't remember if we ever learned that knowledge. I don't think we...
I remember I asked you guys if you wanted to stop and listen in.
Oh, and then we did not.
Your uncle chewing the
we
fuck
heard
out
that
of your
part.
cousin.
But we never heard the specifics of why he was chewing her out.
Why?
That's right.
That's why.
So, cousin who became sister...
Yes.
...was the one that started it all.
Yes.
Okay, this is new information for me.
Yeah, but...
So y'all are seeing my actual reaction to learning this.
Amaro wanted to explain that to you, but you fucking killed him before he could. And your cousin got disintegrated by Mercy, so she couldn't explain it.
And also, Mother was already dead, because we already disintegrated her as well.
Yep.
Because you gave me the best and worst weapon I could have had in this situation. Yeah. A Mace of Disruption, which is the second time a cleric character I've played in a row has had a Mace of Disruption.
Yep.
Because I also had finished a Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus campaign with a cleric with a Mace of Disruption, like just before we started. Yeah. Like, I was in the middle of finishing it when we started the villain campaign.
I didn't intend for that to happen.
Which, for those of you who don't know, a Mace of Disruption is a weapon that is magical. It's a mace that's magical, and after you get your enemies at a certain point of health, I think it's 25.
Yeah.
Once they have 25 health or lower, if they are undead, vampires, in this case, they have to make a saving throw, which is like a roll you make to like kind of defeat, like not take a bad thing that's happening.
Yeah.
In this case, Constitution.
I believe so. Yes.
And if they fail, they just straight up disintegrate.
Yes.
End of enemy.
they go goodbye.
So-
They can't be resurrected.
So
or-
going to this country that my characters is a ruling part of, it's called Nightlands, and it was all undead, zombies, vampires. Dampiers don't count.
Yeah, they don't count.
But zombies and
They
vampires.
happen, but they don't count.
Zombies and vampires are all undead. Yeah. Having that mace was very useful. Also, turn undead
Yes.
was useful as a cleric because then after a certain... So, turn undead lets you force enemies that are undead to flee. But after a certain level, it can just straight up kill
Yeah.
undead creatures, but they have to be like a certain level.
Yep.
They call it a challenge rating, which is like a level essentially for a creature.
Like how difficult this creature
Yeah, how
is.
difficult it is to fight. And so, in my case, they still had to be halves, but most zombie... I think it had to be like
By
ones.
the time at the end of the game,
Maybe
it
it
was
was-
challenge rating 1.
Okay, but I think by the time we invaded Nightlands, it was still
It was
half.
still half.
So...
I think the
But zombies are
hardest fight-
zombies are halves for the most part.
Yeah.
So like literally one of the first challenges came up, which was, hey, this country is surrounded by, instead of like a wall, like a regular wall, they just for border patrol they just have a bunch of zombies.
Yeah. Ironically enough, it is called the Black Wall,
Yeah.
but it's not an actual wall.
So that was our first challenge of getting back into the Nightlands.
Yep.
But of course I was like, wait a minute, I'm a cleric. I have turn
I
undead.
can just tell them
And originally I was like, oh, we're just gonna turn some of them white. Nope, it just
Yep.
it popped a good chunk of them, and we basically
just walked.
Yeah, it was basically Moses parting the Red Sea. But if zombies.
Yep.
But the
I think the
epilogue.
hardest
oh, yeah, go
fight
ahead.
out of all of those was either the Knight Commander or Belwyn's mom.
Belwyn's mom was tough.
Yeah, for both of them.
I think
were
the
for
Knight
two different
the Knight
reasons.
Commander was tough not because of the commander himself, but because of the dogs.
because of the 15 wolves he had.
Yeah, the wolves made that fight
Yeah.
harder. The commander himself was easy.
Yep.
It was the wolves that were chasing us at the same time.
Yeah, because that one was like fight through the city.
Yeah.
And the reason why Belwyn's mom was hard was basically I was like, you know, it's a good spell, and they would probably have the ability to like make one.
Wasn't it that anti-magic?
It's either
thing?
anti-magic or dead magic.
Yeah,
so-
dead magic, yeah. Which basically just makes it to where it creates a zone where magic can't
Yep.
be used.
And against a party of basically 2 spellcasters.
Yeah.
Like you got to get within
but
10
epilogue,
feet.
but epilogues.
Yes, epilogue.
So after the Hamlet stuff went down, I decided to keep the Shakespeare thing going
Mm-hmm.
for my epilogue.
Yep.
And I went King Lear.
Yeah.
And if you're not familiar with King Lear, it doesn't end happy for the king.
No, it does not.
A lot of backstabbing. A lot of children going to war and killing each other.
Mm-hmm.
So basically Belwyn creates a family, but that family is dead now. Because they had a civil war over who was going to take the place of Belwyn.
Yep.
Once Belwyn died eventually, because Dampiers can live a while, so D&D doesn't specify. They just say they have like a
So,
longevity.
For me, how I am going to have to rule it in the future is if it says you age the same as a human, that's how long you live.
Which is weird because it says they age the same, but then it says they also have like longevity, which means that they have like what? I guess maybe somewhere in between a human and elf.
Yeah, that's what I would figure.
But elves can live.
A fucking long time, about 750 years.
Looking at you, Mr. Dritz, who's still alive after 400 years of in-game canon, and that's not including his childhood years.
Yeah,
That's just his adventuring years.
that's like middle-aged
Yeah.
for an elf.
Which Dritz is still like in his prime.
Yeah.
Because like Dritz is still adventuring.
Yep.
Like I think a new book just came out. Because R.A. Salvatore can't not write.
Yep.
Which I love R.A. Salvatore, so don't get me wrong on that, but he's got one of my favorite Star Wars movie adaptation books. I liked his Attack of the Clones adaptation because he wrote the book version.
So the good news is, I was like, oh yeah, thanks for that, because I didn't want to look forward to having to explain why Nightlands got fucked again.
Yeah, so I wrote essentially
Nightlands
that
was already fucked from the first campaign.
Yeah,
so
so
this is a prequel campaign.
yeah, so I knew that stuff had to go down with Nightlands, cause I didn't know what specifically.
Yeah.
So I was just like, I'm just gonna have this go down, and then also one of my allies who was secretly wanting part of my lands now took my lands while taking advantage of the situation.
It's a shame what happens to him later.
Oh, to Flaming Kong?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still though, he lasted for like a pretty long while.
And then my character is still alive, but he's self-exiled himself because after the youngest sibling, who is the one that started the war, survived it after bombing all the other siblings and Belwyn, and assumed everybody died. Belwyn survived, but was scarred heavily from it. And also had kind of gone more into his vampiric nature. And so kills his own son and feeds off of him. And then, of course, Belwyn immediately regains humanity after that and is like, oh, what have I done?
Yeah. Ooh.
And so self-exiled himself to the ruins of his castle to forever lament until his death, feeding every couple centuries to sustain himself. And then on the other end, we have like Drew writing the happiest of endings for his character,
Yeah.
who's like, I got a family, I'm king, everybody lived happily ever after, I eventually died of old age, the end.
Yep.
and then Eli wrote,
Yep.
Eli's like, I become a pirate, the end.
Yes.
And then for my second character, my first character in the campaign who died, he's basically just in hell in a motorcycle gang, but now he's the leader of hell. Well, of the devils. Because in D&D there's the devils and demons, because there's this thing called the Blood War, which...
Fight forever.
Dum, 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 dum.
Fight.
So it's basically devils and demons are technically different in D&D. Devils are more what you think of when you think of like Satan and stuff like that. And then demons are these chaotic creatures that they're both evil, but one is lawful evil, one's chaotic evil, and they both want different designs for the plane, like the mortal planes. Demons want to kind of just wreak havoc and destroy it, and devils want to actually just control it.
Mm-hmm.
But the war goes on forever because there's no winner, and the gods don't interfere because they want to keep it that way.
Yeah.
Because if there's a winner,
if they're too busy fighting each other, then they're not on the mortal plane fucking around.
Yeah. So, but now my character is the Archdevil, so basically a general.
Yeah.
In this war. So, if we ever go to the Dead Plains, then there you go. So I've created content for you to use for future campaigns. Anyways, that's D&D talk.
Yeah.
Let's talk about why we're really here.
Mm-hmm.
Jedi Survivor. Spoiler warning.
Yep.
'Cause
spoiler warnings for the entire game.
Yeah, because I 100%ed that. That's fucker. I guess I'll go with. I was stuck between fucker and sucker. Because like, both work in that case, in terms of English language, but
yep.
Yeah. Fucker. So good stuff to talk about. Story's fantastic.
Oh yeah.
I actually choked up and teared up emotionally at the end. I streamed the entire gameplay that I did, and I choked up at the end. Not
Perhaps
true.
I am a heartless bastard.
Yeah?
But no tears from me.
Well, I don't... you're a little bit harder to get to, I think.
You gotta, like, really catch me off guard.
Well, also, I'm a little bit...
Go on.
So, depending on the time of day, I've noticed that I am more easily susceptible emotionally to certain things, to media. So like if it's like if I'm listening to certain, I've cut off certain musicals to be listening to during the morning
yeah.
because I'm like, if it's a sad musical, I will cry. Nope.
Huh.
Yeah. I've got a list of musicals where I'm like,
You
if it's
have
got a sad
fan
ending,
list.
I'm like, I can't listen to that before noon.
Oh man.
And it's always before noon. It's never later.
Always before noon.
Yeah. So, like, I can't listen to the musical version of The Hunchback of Notre Dame because they do the original ending, which is not a happy ending. Can't do Dolls of New Albion because that one's it's a indie musical.
I see.
I thought I've shown you that one.
Don't think so.
Okay, it's like a steampunk opera.
Huh. Okay.
Anyways, back to Jedi.
Yeah.
I like Bode as a character. Doesn't mean but I also hate Bode because of what he does.
Mm-hmm.
And we have disagreeing opinions on Bode.
Yeah.
I already know.
I think it's mostly because of upbringing.
And I think Bode is once again, I'm dropping the spoiler warning because we're talking heavy spoilers. We're talking end of the game.
Yes. So for me, is like as soon as Bode tells us like he has a daughter within the first like 20-30 minutes, I'm like, you're gonna fucking betray us. If you hadn't said that shit and this had came from the side, I might have been more sympathetic to you later. But because you told me in the first half hour, I'm like, I know it's gonna happen. I don't know when, but it's gonna happen.
I also think there's a misunderstanding on the situation Bode is in. Like, so people, I've heard some people thinking that Bode was like always Imperial, like after the
No.
He was force conscripted into it after his wife died.
Yeah.
Now he was an Imperial the entire time he was hanging out with us.
Yes.
I am playing it again because I'm doing new Journey Plus, they call it. I'm doing it on a harder difficulty. I'm going up one difficulty, but it is harder because it's almost like Grand Jedi Master difficulty, only because I put all the new perks that you get when you start New Game Plus, and one of those perks is your enemies die in 2 hits at the very minimum, but you also die in 2 hits. And so
yeah, that would definitely increase the game's difficulty.
Yeah, it took me forever to get off Coruscant.
Yeah.
Not because the enemies were tough, but because there were so many of them.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a certain point. So because you watched me and you played a little bit. You've at least played through. You got hands on Coruscant. Yeah,
I got to the end of the tutorial level.
Yeah, you got hands on that, but you've seen everything else. Yes. So the part where you fall and then, like when you're trying to make that jump and you fall and they introduce the slow ability. So you know how you run after you defeat all those people in that area, you have to go backwards and go towards where you force push that thing to climb up. And you know how there's a bunch of enemies there?
Oh yeah. That might have taken a while.
Yeah, that's the part I was stuck at. Because one of the perks not only does that, there's another perk that they add for New Journey Plus, which is you can change out what enemies are in the section, and what it does is it makes it to where there are harder enemies. So like where there were, say, I got an example because I was just playing this part. So once you're on Kobo, and you know how you're going to the forest array, there's a section there where the enemy that's supposed to be there is the chicken-looking things that rush you.
Hmm?
Instead, it's an Imperial probe droid.
Oh no.
And not like the standard probe droid, it's the big one. Because you know how there's the small one and the big one in the game? It's the big one.
Fuck.
So instead of a chicken that runs at me that I could dodge, which I probably wouldn't have dodged because I still also suck with those chickens every now and then, it's instead a Imperial probe droid that immediately shoots at me as soon as I jump over. But yeah, so in the case of this section, though, where I kept dying on Coruscant, you had 2 rocket launchers, a probe droid, a sniper,
Just
which not Inquisitor, the type
Purge
of
trooper?
yeah, purge trooper, sniper purge trooper, all 4 of those.
Oh god.
And it was usually the
Just
probe
intense.
droid that got me because I would be like, I'd take out the rocket troopers, and the purge trooper would be dealing with Bode because this is when Bode's hanging out with you and partnered up
Yeah.
with you for the section. So Bode's distracting the purge trooper, and then I'd be in the back, still in the middle area where I first fell, trying to heal myself. And while I'm healing myself from the first shot, the probe droid would go, "Hey, while you're healing, I'm gonna shoot you before you can finish healing."
Whoops.
And this is even with me using slow.
Mm.
So yeah, it's tough. So even without me going to Grandmaster, my new Journey Plus journey is tough. The only fun perk they add, where it doesn't make the game harder, is whenever there's a perk that whenever you die, it randomizes all your custom abilities.
Mm.
So you die in the new random version of Callan, BD, and lightsaber. And then not a perk, but a new thing that's unlocked. You get 2 new lightsaber options for colors.
Okay.
You get your red lightsaber because you can't have a red lightsaber in the base when you first play it, and then party saber, which lets you, anytime your lightsaber like cuts something or deflects, it changes what color it is.
Mm.
So it will just change colors.
Okay. The rave saber.
Yeah, the rave saber, except it's not really raving because it's like I would imagine a rave saber would just be continuously changing colors.
Mm.
But I imagine the developers were like, that's probably a bad idea in case of like people that would
epilepsy.
yeah, epilepsy.
Just a heads up.
Yeah.
So we're gonna change it.
Where it
So
just
it's slightly-
where it changes colors, but it's a slower. It's whenever
Yeah.
you use it.
Like.
But yeah, so that's my experience. Like, and so while playing New Journey Plus, though, going back to my main point, I started to think about Bode, and I was curious, what is his motive before he learns about Tanalorr? Because he doesn't learn about Tanalorr until he meets with you at Kobo.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I assume, okay, maybe he's getting some intel for the Empire during this time.
Yeah.
Well, ISB specifically.
Because God forbid the Empire.
Because the Empire is, once again, we learn more about why the Inquisitors don't exist by the time of A New Hope, and it's because ISB and Inquisitors hate each other.
Hate each other.
Because the Empire, the left arm doesn't know what the right arm's doing. It never does. And Palpatine encourages this type of behavior, as we see in Rebels. He encourages this behavior.
God forbid you cross-coordinate anything.
Because, like, he encourages competition, and unfortunately it's also a failing of the Empire that the Empire is competitive with itself. Because that's how things like Thrawn's initiatives don't get done, because the Defender Project is going up against the Death Star for funding.
Mm.
And then on top of that, you have stuff like, well, in this case, you have the ISB, who is trying to work with Bode, and they apparently were already planning an attack on Jeddah.
Yeah.
But then Bode gives insider information to the Inquisitors because he doesn't like the Empire, even though he's forced to work for them, but he still has a deep hatred for them because of what happened to his wife. And so he decides to play them against each other perfectly.
Yeah.
The Inquisitors show up, take out Jeddah, and then we learn when Cal goes to get revenge because he tracks Bode using the tracker that he swapped with Bode at the beginning of the game.
Yep.
Which leads him to an ISB facility, which Bode planned. Basically,
It's like it was me. I caused all the problems for fucking everybody.
But yeah, so like, yeah, no, because Cal shows up and Bode's like, "Oh, you're here ahead of time. I was supposed to already
It's
be
like,
gone.
Damn. I was trying to leave.
My daughter took
guy.
forever to pack up, though."
Fuck.
Which, speaking of, I like his daughter.
Yeah, I'm like, I may be cruel, but it does not extend to children. I'm like, you're just a kid. This isn't really your fault.
Yeah, it's not your fault. Your dad's kind of fallen to the dark side.
It's not your fault that your dad's going through a bunch of bullshit right now.
Yeah. Which I think that is. So the idea of how easy it is to fall to the dark side is a theme in this game.
Yeah.
Because it's literally the journey Cal's having to deal with. Because from the beginning, when Coruscant mission goes wrong, because it goes right, then it goes wrong.
Yeah, he's like,
Like, he immediately, you see his anger, and you see him dealing with the dark side immediately.
Yep.
Because Ninth Sister... So,
Cal's very bad, no good week.
'cause
Again, part 2.
Ninth Sister shows up and ruins everything, killing all of Cal's new friends except for Bode. Which was a happenstance.
Yeah.
Actually, sorry, Ninth Sister also doesn't kill Bravo. Bravo dies from TIE fighters.
Yep.
But yeah, once Ninth Sister starts killing everybody, Cal, you see his angry face and he lights his lightsaber and like everybody's trying to call Cal back and is like, "Hey, come back so we can leave." But Cal's too busy being angry and getting that taste of the dark side. And
I'm like, oh no.
yeah. And then so that's one way that the dark, like, we get this idea of how easy it is to fall to the dark side. But we also get it with our initial antagonist, my brain just, can you help me?
Okay. Ravis or Dagan Gera?
Dagan Gera.
Yeah.
Dagan. I knew it was AGAN somewhere. I forget what the first letter was. Yeah. So Dagan Gera.
Yeah.
Dagan Gera is our other journey into how easy it is to fall to the dark side. Because Ravis isn't. Ravis is just there to be.
Yeah, wait, no. Ravis doesn't have any abilities
No,
like that.
he's just a Gendai.
He's just, functionally immortal.
Until you stab
Until
him
you
in the heart or...
keep-
Yeah. You gotta, like, stab him in
Until you
specific
stab
places.
him in the heart like 8 times.
But Dagan is a Jedi who pretty much follows the path of Anakin in that he's kind of viewed as this hero, but then, like, he kind of has this ego about him and sees himself as the only guy who can save the Jedi. And he sees Tanalorr as his opportunity for that. And then, of course, when Master Rancisis, who we know from the prequels and from the High Republic books, because longevity, long-living Jedis, when Rancisis shuts that shit down, which, I mean, there's a reason he shuts it down, because, I mean, it's real. Tanalorr is proven not to be as safe as they thought it was initially, because somehow the Nihil got there.
Mm-hmm. I like how in the captions it just says Space Marauders and then in parentheses Nihil.
Well, it's because, like,
I assume
I think they're
because
assuming for
general
this.
populace
Yeah,
doesn't know.
Yeah, because, like, you and me and a lot of our mutuals read the books.
We know about the Nihil.
We know about the Nihil, but obviously this is meant to be a baby's entrance to High Republic.
Yeah.
Which I think it does a good way of showing off the High
Yeah.
Republic. You get to, and I like the little temple, the side temples you can go to in this one, because so in the first game you have the 3 tombs that you go through as like your puzzles. That's where you get your like Metroidvania, Zelda style puzzles of like, how do I get through this tomb?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Space magic.
yeah, but like puzzle solving. this game has like the optional High Republic, like has the optional High Republic's temples
Yeah.
on Kobo that you can go to, and some of them less optional than others because if you don't go to them, you miss some BD upgrades that you need. One of them being the device that lets you move the Kobo, whatever it's called, that weird Kobo metal goo thing that looks like venom, looks like a symbiote. Lets you move that stuff so that way you can light fires further across places, and so you have to go to one of the temples to get that device, but
Like,
it's like on your way anyways. It's not like it's out of the way.
yeah.
So it's like, hey, here's a temple right here. You want to go to that? Of course, I'm on New Journey Plus. I don't have to do any of that. Thank God. I also have my lightsaber, all my lightsaber types. You didn't get to play with the lightsaber types because you only played Coruscant.
I only got 1 and 2.
Well, you technically have
Technically, I had 3 with a staff, but I'm like,
because you have single blade, you have double blade, and you had the
split.
the dual blade.
Yeah. I looked at the double blade and immediately chose dual blade.
Well, dual blade. Okay, so mechanically speaking, dual blade is the best if you're a fast, like if you're a guy that likes to just cut down things real quick, and you just have that like you gotta go fast, like you're Sonic. Because it is actually the fastest type. Because when you select your stances, it actually shows you the stats of each stance. And that dual wielding is the fastest, with double blade being the next fastest. Cross guard is the slowest. It's your heavy like attack. Like you're like the way he carries it is like a broadsword. He's like almost dragging it.
Yep.
Like his run attack with it is him kicking somebody, and like he kicks himself into the air with it and falls, and you have to get up. That's his run attack. Whereas every other lightsaber's run attack is just run and swing.
Yep.
The blaster stance is actually pretty. I like the blaster stance. I usually go between blaster stance and cross guard.
Yeah.
But I but Dagon, yeah. So I like
he
Dagon.
is for real.
The moment, okay. So we have seen it in visual media, but not. Okay, we've seen it in comics. Is what I mean by visual media.
But we've never seen.
But we've never seen
game.
in a game or a movie or a TV show. We've never seen a crystal bled.
Yeah. I thought it would take longer than that, but I guess I was wrong.
So it was very interesting. Like Dagon just straight up
starts it immediately out of.
Well, because he's already angry.
Yeah.
And so his rage is fueling that particular bleed.
I've been in the ICU.
For how long?
For fucking 300 years.
Yeah. Poor Z.
All healed up. All I need to do is get out.
Yeah. Well, all healed up minus an arm still.
Yeah.
He still has no arm because, his best friend Kree cut it off.
Yeah.
Because she had to. He was going to make some big mistakes otherwise. He still ends up making those mistakes, but, at least it happens, centuries down the line.
That becomes a problem for
the future.
Yep.
Problem for future Jedi. What Jedi?
Would they have killed you to leave a note?
Yeah, it's terrible because Cal's like, oh, Kree left this on purpose because after talking to Z, her droid, they're like, oh yeah, she left this on purpose as a key to Tanalorr. Obviously, she wanted us to figure out how to get to Tanalorr. I think she did, but I think she was hoping that Dagon would have calmed down by then. In fact, no, I'm not hoping that. That's actually one of the entries when you do your little force thing of his psychometry. It turns out that she was hoping there was still enough good in him that he'd change his ways, but no. I do like the way Dagon fights.
Oh yeah.
Like, it takes me back to Knights of the Republic 2, with
Yeah.
Krea's lightsaber style when you start cutting Krea's hands off.
He's insane.
Because he dual wields without an arm, missing an arm. And so he's using the Force to carry the other lightsaber, and it's,
It's like shit.
Apparently he's really tough though. Like on proper Grandmaster. On story mode, which is how I always played Jedi first. I always played on the easiest difficulties for a lot of games. Sometimes just because I don't got time for this. I want the story. Give me the story.
I feel like Cal doesn't face off against a lot of powerful opponents, but what he does square up against is he always is squaring up against people who are way more skilled than he is.
Yeah, because you showed me that video of the Force Unleashed versus Jedi games, and I disagree with certain aspects. There are certain aspects of that conversation because technically,
because it's also two different conversations.
Yeah, because also on top of that, like, Starkiller can't do half of the stuff that the video game shows him doing in reality, but that's another conversation.
Another thing.
But yeah, like one of the things that video brings up though is the difficulty of opponents that Starkiller faces versus Cal.
Yeah.
And Starkiller's like, yeah, I took out Palpatine and Vader, and Cal's like, I ran from Vader. But also,
it's not that. It's,
like the Stormtroopers are talking about that, but still, that's like the
even like the conversation in that video between Cal and Starkiller is Starkiller's like, yeah, I fought Vader and won. Cal's like, I ran from Vader, and Cal is, and then you hear like from off screen, Dark Side, fucking Starkiller, and he's like, Cal looks like, what happened to you? And Starkiller's like, let's just say that the Emperor has hands. For real.
Yeah. And so like, but then they talk about like how difficult some of the opponents that Cal faced, like, because they're like, oh yeah, Starkiller just cuts down stormtroopers in his game, which is not entirely true. That depends on the difficulty you play. Like, his enemies are annoying. Force Unleashed is actually, as somebody who went back and played a little bit of Force Unleashed 1, gameplay-wise, it sucks.
Oh, yeah?
It's terrible.
Is it like a mid-2000s hack and slash?
It's a mid-2000s hack and slash that wants to be God of War.
But it's not God of War.
But it's not God of War, and on top of that, like, what it views as difficulty is how many enemies can we throw at you?
Yeah.
Which is not difficulty. That's just annoyance.
Yep. Like, getting back into this game. Also, Cal.
We get to deal with Ogdo Bogdo. Again. And his new friend.
Ogdo Bogdo 2.
Yeah, Ogdo Bogdo 2. I forget its actual name, but yeah. I'd say, honestly, the most difficult thing was the, in story mode anyways, was the, where you do the there's like puzzles. They're not the temples. Tears, the force tears. Which are like these things. So you find force tears throughout I think it's only on Kobo. No, it's everywhere, on all the planets. And what they are is like you find them, and Cal will meditate on them, and then you start a challenge, which is basically you have to use the skills that you've learned to defeat this challenge. And a lot of them were like platforming, being able to bounce off of things at certain times, because there's like sometimes you'd be wall running and there's like an electric thing coming at you, and so you have to be able to jump off the wall, get back on the wall, and continue your wall run.
Yeah. God.
And then of course, then you get the Night Sister ability to do the dash. So you have the double jump air dash, as well as going through the green portals, through the green fences.
Do you remember the not wall jump, where you jump against the wall and use the force to pull yourself back up.
Oh, so where? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like that.
I kind of don't mind it. It makes it to where. So, I think I like everything
I
that's
know
in this
like
game.
the mechanic that they based it off of because I've seen and done that one.
Yeah.
But I understand like in world how it's doing. I just don't like how it looks.
Also, one of the best things, though, I will say about the gameplay, before I think we should start my rants. Best things about these gameplays is they keep all of your abilities from the first game, which I think a lot more modern games are doing.
Yeah.
A lot more, like, I remember back in the day, a lot of sequel games would be like, hey, you know all those cool abilities that you learned in the first game? You forgot them. You forgot them. You got to re-earn them. Go get them again. And it's like, but I spent an entire, like, 300, like, I spent 100 hours earning those. Why are you taking them away from me?
When they're equipment-based, I can kind of understand that. But when it's, like, force-based, I'm like, what do you mean I forgot?
Well, not even just since, like, but I'm talking, like, games in general. Like, not even, like, even, like, the original, like, the PS2 era Spider-Man games. Like, imagine, like, when you'd go from Spider-Man 1 to Spider-Man 2. Like, okay, thanks, I forgot, like, how to web swing this way, even though I knew how to do it.
Oh, well.
Like, but a lot more modern games, like, because I was talking to some people about it, it's like God of War Ragnarok also, you don't lose your abilities that you learned in God of War. Like, whereas original God of War trilogy, yeah, that's exactly what happened. You forgot your abilities, start over. I mean, so it
is frustrating to the player.
I'm glad modern gaming.
The narrative reason, though.
I'm glad modern gaming has learned.
It's moving away.
Yeah,
from
they're
that.
moving away from that.
It's a shame that they're.
Now, I don't like how slow was put. How slow is implemented though for slow, because I liked that in in Fallen Order, for slow it can be used on puzzles. Because it's another one of your force abilities that you can use whenever. Here, it's a combat only ability. Because it's your rage meter essentially.
Yeah.
And so you have to wait till your meter gets filled and then you can use it again, but only in combat. So then that takes away, I think, from me, for some of the puzzles, I feel like it would have been cool to be able to use Force Slow on some of those puzzles that they had me doing, because then I could be like, oh yeah, because I liked using Force Slow in the puzzles in the first game. I thought it was very interesting to be like, oh, I got to force push this thing, but I got to slow it down so it doesn't fly off away from me.
Yeah.
But other than that, like, that's my only rant in terms of force abilities.
Yeah. Puzzles and platforming are not a interest to me, but I understand, like, people can like them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not usually a big puzzle game guy, but I think certain games have, like, implemented them well, and I think the Jedi franchise has done a good job of implementing them. So my issues with this game.
Let's start.
None of them are story-based.
No, surprisingly.
The story, I think, is great.
Good.
I'd say, like, if you don't have the time you can pull a Seth and just watch the cutscenes. It's like they were up day one. Like, somebody had all of the which I don't like. That's not a game problem. That's not an issue on the developers, though. That's a fandom issue where, like, everybody has to be day one, has to be spoiling things.
Yep.
No. But on a development issue.
Yes.
So, Jedi Survivor.
Are we going to talk about... Which one do we want to talk about first?
I want to talk about how Jedi Survivor was already delayed once.
Okay.
And it was because... And they told us. They were very open about, like... Which I thank Respawn for that. I like Respawn. I like what they do with games. They were very open. They said, we are delaying this because while the game is finished, we want to clean out the bugs. Apparently, they also asked EA for more time. And we're told no.
Yep.
And PC players found out why. I was lucky enough that I played it on PlayStation. But PC players and even some Xbox players struggled to get this game to run beyond 30 FPS. Which, in this generation, on PC, 60 FPS should be especially when we're talking about people that are running on high-end PCs. Like, I'm talking about pro, like, Twitch streamers using high-end, like, thousands of dollars PCs. The game still struggled. And, I mean, I was expecting some problems, because I was talking to Drew, because Drew just built a PC.
Yeah.
And, like, we were talking about, he could play the new Jedi on it. But then I was like, but also, the Jedi Survivor's, like, requirements are, like, nasty.
They're ridiculous.
Yeah, in case you don't know their system requirements, they're recommended, which at this point, because we're talking about how it can't run on PC, we're going to be saying that you'll want the recommended at least. It's a 4-core CPU, 8 threads, Intel Core i5, 116,000K Ryzen 5 5600X, which is pretty high end right off the bat. 16 gigs of RAM, which is on most computers half your RAM, if not all, if not almost all your RAM, depending on how good of a PC you've got. Video card is 8 gigs of VRAM with a GeForce RTX 2070 or a Radeon RX 6700 XT. Once again, we're talking almost high-end, like, new.
So for those of you who don't know, I don't know shit about computers.
I don't either, but I've talked to people who do, and this is high-end stuff.
All I understand is the bigger the number, the harder it is to run.
Dedicated video, and the dedicated amount of that video RAM is going to be 8192 megabytes. So right off the bat, you have a dedicated amount of video RAM out of that 8 gigs of video RAM. 5.1 pixel shader, 5.1 vertex shader. Has to be on Windows 10 and 64-bit. That's standard at this point. And then how much space the game takes. 130 gigabytes of disk space.
Yeah, I remember that, because I remember we tried to live stream it.
Yeah, so we live streamed day one, because I pre-ordered.
Yeah.
I went to we went to Best Buy together, picked it up, went home, started the installation immediately. We got what we thought was done. We started playing it, and all we could do was the Coruscant level, because it turns out we were not done installing. And that was like an hour after we got home, because I got home, installed it. We waited about an hour, maybe an hour and a half. And then we were like, okay, game says it's done. I got the alert on my phone because I've got the PlayStation app on my phone. Yep. And so I was like, okay, time to play. And so we went live, did Coruscant, and then the game was like, all right, time to go to Kobo. Oh, you can't go to Kobo. And we first thought it was a bug.
Okay.
Because we started looking it up. And then after I was like, okay, we're just going to end the stream for now, and I brought you home, I went back to the house, and I saw, it's still installing. And it was like 3 hours more of install.
Yep. Speaking of install.
Oh, yes.
Internet required.
Yes, so on the box, and it's once again, this is going back to my rant with Willow and digital physical media. Once again, I understand this is where they're going. I've had this conversation with people. I understand this is where they're going. Doesn't mean I have to like it.
Everyone thought I was crazy about playing older games where hard copies were available.
Remember when you could just pop in your PS2 game and all of your game was there?
Yeah.
Imagine if you had to go through, you popped in the disc and all it said was, okay, you can play the game now. You'll have to install it a different way.
Yep.
That's what the disc says on Jedi Survivor.
You'll have to download it.
Yeah, you still have to download it 100%. There's nothing on the disc other than the license. Which is going to start a very dangerous trend.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I'm pretty sure a bunch of other games already have done it. They just haven't labeled it in a way where it's obvious. On top of that, the current generation of gaming is the most expensive it's ever been.
Yeah.
I'm
Like, it was
paying. I'm paying
always-
a physical. I'm paying for a physical copy
Yep.
with the deluxe edition, with a pre-order. I paid $100 for this thing because the base game is $80.
Mm.
Well, $79.99, $80. Because current gen gaming said it's $70, I guess, but with taxes it came out to closer to 80. But like current gen said instead of $50 for a AAA game, it's 70. So we're paying 70 to $100 for a game that I don't actually can play. Like, you guys could take this game away from me at any moment.
Yep.
I can't play this if you do. Like, if say, they close PlayStation Network today,
Gone.
gone. My game is gone, along with any other games. A game that's not completely working for everybody as well on day one. Even with the day one patch, the game is not working. Which, that's getting into a whole other thing when you talk about day one patches and how that's frustrating too.
Yeah.
The gaming industry sucks.
Yeah. I don't. This.
And I feel bad because it's not the developers. It's not Respawn. Respawn wanted to do what they could for this game. It's the publishers. Because it's always the publishers. Even in like the 90s, EA was always terrible. EA's always been terrible. And it's why I'm glad Disney does not have that contract with EA going anymore. I'm ready for some other studios to produce games for us. Which, I guess we can. I saw a rumor. Apparently, the Ubisoft game we can expect maybe next year, but I doubt it. And even then, I'm not. Ubisoft is just as. When it comes to these game industry issues, Ubisoft is just as bad as EA.
Yeah.
I'll be surprised if the new Assassin's Creed games are good.
They haven't been good for a while.
I think they've been better than they have been, but they aren't. Yeah, I mean, like
We have.
Valhalla is definitely better than anything that.
I'm mad that they turned it into an RPG.
Yeah, we talked about that. They're good RPGs. How about that?
They're not.
But
Like.
once again, I understand this is where the industry's going. Same with film and television. They want to go all digital so that way they can control how we listen, watch, whatever. It's just frustrating.
I don't like it.
Yeah. Like I said, I can understand it. I can understand the business reasons. Doesn't mean I have to like it.
Yep.
And I know I'm not the only one. I mean, and I know people that have even tried to explain it to me. They also don't like it, but
The general consensus is we understand it. We're not happy about it.
yeah.
And that's about all there is to it.
And unfortunately, we're also just going to keep buying things because we are.
Yeah, that's just how things be.
So it isn't going to change
No, it's not.
because as long as we're putting money in their pockets,
They're
they'll
gonna
see it
keep
as,
doing
hey, we're
it.
doing it right. And I think digital especially
Yeah.
has like proven that because most people buy video games digitally these days. I'm definitely one of the rare people that's like, I want my box. I mean, it's not even like the old days where you had an instruction manual. Hell, this one I think this one only came with a promotion for the thing that I already had with this
Yeah.
game, which is the deluxe edition stuff. It's like, hey, you get your Luke Skywalker and your Han Solo stuff. It's like, yeah, I already know that. I already paid $100 to ensure I got that.
We have this.
And then other games, I've seen them like hawking physical media tie-ins to the games. Like I've seen Final Fantasy stuff be like, "Hey, get this necklace."
Yep.
And it's just like, what?
Yep. Like,
I feel like my rants all have a theme today. They're all based around this idea of like owning physical property,
Yeah.
consumers' rights, and I think the only one that really wasn't that was developers and how the bugs. But
Yeah.
even then, that kind of ties into everything, still, because the reason that the game was rushed is because the publishers rushed it for money for the same reason that we can't physically fully own our games. It all ties in.
Yep. This one's a bit of a downer today, but hey.
You know what? On a high note, let's talk about our favorite parts of the game.
Hmm.
That way we could, because I do still suggest this game.
It is a good game.
It's a great game. It takes what Jedi Fallen Order did right, builds up on it, and adds more great things.
It does what a sequel is ideally supposed to do.
Yeah, and I'm also glad the Inquisitors weren't the main bad guys.
Yeah.
Because this game takes place at the same time as Kenobi. We see in Kenobi the Inquisitors are already dying out. And then Rebels just ensures that years later. Rebels is like, yep, Inquisitor's gone. So, I mean, it makes sense that the only Inquisitor we see in this game is Ninth Sister.
Yep.
Who we already kicked her ass in Fallen Order. And she's only here to be the tutorial fight. So we can actually kill her. And then the only time the Inquisition is mentioned after that is when Vader is involving Vader and Purge Troopers.
Yep.
Yeah. Now, when do you think this takes place in regards to Kenobi? After or, like, before? Because I have two favorite moments. One, the first time you go to Jeddah, when you get that awesome action sequence with Merrin, where Merrin does her magic thing and you're flying all over Jeddah with her, going through the Night Sister portals and just flying. I thought that felt very Naughty Dog style of like big action sequence.
Yeah.
And I like those in video games every now and then. Like I like one good big action sequence. Don't make the whole game that, but give me at least one, and I think that's fun. Because it's not usually gameplay heavy, those sequences. Usually those are just cutscenes, but with some interactions from QuickTime events. The other one I liked was playing as Seer, and I liked the fight between Seer and Vader.
Yeah. Just gonna finally back up all that shit talk.
Which I predicted that you would get to play as somebody else. I was thinking Merrin, because of like how I figured people would want to play with Merrin and her Night Sister magic, which we get a taste of that because Merrin's like, here's a totem that lets you do some Night Sister magic, so now you can do the dash jump. But instead they were like, no, you play a Seer. And Seer almost wins.
She almost does. And it's like...
But, of course, plot armor and the fact that the rest of the Star Wars saga has to happen.
Yeah.
Vader had to win.
Yep.
It was still a good fight.
Yes.
And that is why I'm curious if you think this takes place before or after Kenobi. Is this before Kenobi and he goes into Obi-Wan thinking, oh yeah, I just killed another Jedi? Or is this after Kenobi when he is pissed because of how things went down with Kenobi?
I think it's before.
Okay.
I mean, I don't
It's all
know.
up for interpretation because currently we don't know where on the timeline everything specifically takes place on these particular things.
Yeah. I think it's before.
I like to imagine after because I like to imagine Vader is just so fucking angry. Because, like, after the events with Kenobi, he was mad.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just imagine that level of energy when Vader's invading Jeddah, and he's just like, these guys... I also want to think of that because it has to do with the path. And so Vader's already done with this path nonsense because he's already had to deal with it in Kenobi. And so now the path is still operating out in Jeddah.
Oh, yeah. Shit, it is.
Yeah, because Seer's part of the path.
Yep.
She's been
Which
operating
path?
it.
I know so many now, and I'm so upset.
The one that saves Jedi, not the High Republic one. And so, like, I want to imagine that this is like a splinter cell of the path that survived, that like wasn't there, and they were like, oh yeah, we know what happened over there, but we're like keeping things running here smoothly on Jeddah.
Yep.
And now Vader's just like, oh, another path thing that I got to take out.
Fucking goddamn it.
So I feel like it should be after, personally, but it's up for interpretation because we aren't told.
Yeah.
There is nothing in the text that says when this would take place.
Yep.
But but those are some of my favorite moments. I love that. I love. And as far as characters, Turgle is my new Glup Shido. Which is, for those of y'all who don't know what a Glup Shido is, it's a fandom term in Star Wars. I think it's Star Wars specifically, but I think other fandoms have started to use the term. And it's basically a background character that's not important, that you just really love. And so for some people, that's Dexter Jetster. Dexter Jetster is up there for me. But Turgle's amazing. He can do no wrong, even though he does everything wrong. And then I like Ravis as a antagonist.
Yeah.
But I also like that Gendai are becoming a canon thing again. I mean, this isn't the first Gendai brought into canon, because they brought Dirge back in the Afra comic. And they kept a lot of Dirge's, Dirge pretty much is the same character he was in the Clone Wars cartoon. The original one, the Gendy one. You know, kind of very strict bounty hunter that can't die because he's a Gendai.
Yep.
Ravis is very much the same way, and very much the Gendai culture of, it's similar to Mandalorians, but they hate Mandalorians, at least in Legends. I don't know if that's still canon.
Yeah.
That's why Dirge signed up to be on the Separatist side in the Clone Wars cartoon, because he was like, hey, I get to kill a bunch of Mandalorians over and over again because they're all clones of Jango Fett. Sign me up.
Oh, thank God.
But yeah, I like Ravis. I like Dagon as an antagonist. He's very interesting, and I want to see some High Republic media with him in it, which I think is I think that's the goal. I think the goal is we get people interested in the High Republic through Jedi Survivor that weren't already, and so then we make some content that will introduce him. I don't think it's gonna be any of the main titles for High Republic stuff, because I think they still want to focus on telling that Nihil path story. But I think even after the main initiative is over, we're still gonna get High Republic content, because after Phase 3, I don't think that's the end of High Republic content. I just think that's the end of that story.
Yeah.
Just like we still get prequel content all the time, but the prequels are over doesn't mean we don't get prequel era content. Same thing with the original trilogy and
Then want to talk about the other thing that happens?
Was there anything else that what else did I miss?
A certain bounty hunter.
Oh, yeah. So side questing.
Yeah.
Cuz this one has so they call them rumors.
Yeah.
And they treat them like side quests, but they're really not. What it is just incentive for you to explore the map.
Mm-hmm.
Because Jedi Survivor, going into it being a sequel, Jedi Survivor is bigger than Fallen Order in terms of world maps. Which is why I'm glad that the map is a little bit better. It still is that 3D floating thing, but you can now place objective points. Yeah, you can place objective points for yourselves, and the game even offers optional objective thing where it's like, hey, this is the way you should go for the story. But you can only see it on the map. I was actually talking about this with Scotty, who's in the room. I kind of wish they did what Dead Space Remake did, which is where you see it even if the map's not open, where you get the little waypoint and you can see it in the world.
Yeah.
That would have been nice. But I will accept this half measure for now. If whenever Jedi 3 comes out, because let's be honest, Jedi, they're going to make a third one. Whenever it comes out, all I ask you, Respawn, is add a in-world thing where I can see it. You're on the right steps. And so there's some incentives to exploring the world. One of those is that, so kind of similar to like Fallout 4 is my best thing to throw out there, is you have this community that you're building on Kobo. In this case, you're not built.
There we go.
Yeah. In this case, yeah. In this case, you're not. Yeah, it's like a settlement. In this case, you're not literally building the settlement.
Yeah.
But in this case, you're bringing people back to make Grease's Cantina. Why am I struggling with names all of a sudden? Pyloons. Pyloon Saloon, which is Grease's Cantina named after his grandmother. You're basically bringing people there to kind of like add to the people that are there that are like drinking, because when you first go there, it is empty. There's nobody there, partially because of the Raiders led by Ravis, and partially because it's just there's nobody going there. It's not popular.
Yep.
So when you're interacting with the world, you're bringing more people to do that, and on top of that, you're getting more people that you can buy stuff from using different things that you earn throughout the game as money. So you can do. So they changed the garden thing. So instead of a terrarium on the Mantis, you now have an entire roof garden on top of the saloon. Which when you unlock all of the, once you unlock a certain amount of that garden, you get like an unlock for your map, so where you can see where certain things are on the map, certain of the collectibles, because you unlock like parts of the map where you can actually see collectibles on your mini map, instead of having to like guess where the collectibles are, which was a thing in the first game. Fallen Order did not have a here's where the collectibles are. No. The other thing you can do is you can do some bounty hunting, which is led by this woman named Cage, who is like, hey, remember those bounty hunters you dealt with in the first game? They're still after you because you never dealt with them. Which we still don't really deal with them. We just kill all the bounty hunters.
Yep.
Jedi 3, let us actually deal with
the
bounty hunters. Well, specifically the guy who's in charge of them.
Yeah.
The guy who hates Grease
so much.
Tormo. That's his name. Let us deal with that guy in Jedi 3. But so you do the bounty hunter missions, and then at the end of them, when you're ready to turn in that, because as you're doing them, you get pucks, and then you go to Cage and you sell the pucks back to her as a way of getting upgrades for your blaster, for more like not all upgrades, but some of them are like skins and stuff. But some of them are upgrades, like you can do charge shots with the blaster stance. And one of the charge shots you can do that you can buy from her is a ricochet one, which I love. You do it, you hold it, and then you ricochet the blaster shot on your enemies. I love it. But when you take the last puck, the bounty puck to her, she's not there. And this is a minor spoiler warning because it's a side quest, but spoiler warning. So you go to find her where you first met her, like where you first officially met her, because you meet her in the cantina, but she doesn't talk to you. But where you first officially meet her is where you go for this meeting. And it turns out she was having you kill all those bounty hunters because she's a bounty hunter who wants to capture you, and you've just taken out all of her competition.
Yeah. Brings me to the age-old question, how much is one Jedi worth?
Oh, yeah, and that's also part of it, because for each bounty hunter you killed, you brought your bounty up.
Yep.
And she was like, yeah, you weren't worth it at first, but now you are. And so you have a quick fight with her, you kick her ass, and then Boba Fett shows up.
Yeah.
And at first you're like, and so,
damn it.
at first everybody's like in this standoff stance going like, okay, who's Boba Fett here for? Is he here for the Jedi? And Cage is like, get off my back. This is my bounty. And Boba Fett's like, oh, I'm not here for him. I'm here for you.
Yeah.
Because obviously bounty hunters and crime lords don't like when bounty hunters are killing each other like this. Unless they are a bounty, they don't like that.
Yep.
We have rules.
And the first rule is...
don't fuck with each other unless there's a bounty on you.
Yep.
And Cage has a bounty on her because of that. So Boba Fett comes in, and just like the chocolate bar delivery man that he is, he's only there for her. And even no matter how many times as Cal you try to annoy him and talk to him. Which they do bring up that Boba Fett hates Jedi, like hinting at the whole Mace Windu affair.
Oh yeah, my fucking dad was decapitated by a Jedi in front of me as a child.
Yeah, and so he's like, and so like you can
response.
keep trying to talk to him. I did, I because I'm the type of player that if I see the you can talk to this NPC thing, I'm gonna keep hitting that until I can't.
Oh, you're not the like once they tell you if you go now before I change my mind.
Yeah, and Knights of the Republic 1 has kicked my butt for that. And we'll talk about when you first meet Calo Nord. Yeah. But yeah, so Boba Fett, that's a fun little Easter egg.
Go away.
Yeah, he just tells you to go away a bunch and like threatens to take you in, but doesn't. And because eventually, as Cal's like, okay, bye.
Cal's like, maybe not.
And
not today.
I think there's also some setup with some of the other side characters for some stuff. I kind of This is one of the few times where I wish the Jedi games were a kind of game where there was like proper DLC and story content, like post base game, because like Scuba Stev, he tells. So one of the side quests is getting fish for the fish tank in the bar, and you aren't actually fishing, but you meet this guy who is doing the fishing that you recruit to do all that.
Yeah.
And his name is Scuba Stev. He's I forget the name of the small frog species. The one from Clone Wars, that the guy that goes inside the astromechs. That species. And he's basically telling you his entire life story. Like, you don't have to listen to it. You can just you can basically, because you can choose to just have him do the fish and then walk away, and that's it. But if you talk to him more after he picks up the fish, he'll tell you part of his life story. And he tells it as like this grand adventure. And it's basically him. It's basically Deadliest Catch in space.
Man.
And it's basically him joining up these like fishing crews, going to different planets and fishing. And like at some point, like joining up with pirates and being part with whalers who kill they actually kill what they fish rather than actually like fishing for the sake of throwing like
catch and release.
Yeah, which is what Scuba was used to. And so he joins a crew that's like, we kill what we catch.
Yeah.
Even if it's in excess. So obviously throwing back to like the whaling type of fishing, which, but at the end of the story, Scuba talks about how he was betrayed by the captain of that crew, and he eventually manages to beat him in a fight, but he's still out there. And so I'm like, oh, that would be cool if like I get to team up with you and we get to fight this awesome space fishing captain. Like, but no, nothing in the game for that yet.
Oh well.
And then you got like some other mini games and stuff. There's like almost like a totally accurate battle simulator, that game, where you just create your army and then the armies fight each other. So you have that type of mini game where it's all the enemies you've scanned, you can use them as your soldiers in this like hollow game of just tabs essentially. But there's a lot to do in the game. It's fun. Even if you don't care about all that, the story's good. I'm probably going to play some more of it today to finish my new Journey Plus. That I'm doing on my own. I'm not recording that. Yeah. Let's see. What's next week?
Yeah.
Because it's June next week. It's a new month.
Visions.
Yes, it's Visions. It is. Visions Volume 2.
Oh, I can't wait to see how that goes.
Yeah, so the month of June, what we've currently got. We've got Visions Volume 2 next week. We got Young Jedi Adventures after that.
All right.
Which I know you're least excited about.
I'll do it because I agreed to this with you.
I'll leave it as a surprise. Then we got the High Republic Path of Vengeance. So the last of the
real path.
The last of the High Republic Phase 2 young adult novels, which I've not read yet, but I've got a copy now. And then Free Comic Book Day happened this month, and so we'll talk about the High Republic Free Comic Book Day issue, and that'll be June. Currently no guest, but that could always change. All right, what do you give? I mean, I played it, I guess, so I guess I should.
Yeah.
But what do you give the story of Jedi Survivor?
Eight.
You know what? That's actually where I almost want to give the game an 8.5, but there's so many things. Like, there's still bugs that, while I didn't experience, I know they exist, and I would give it a 9 if not for those things. But yeah, so that's it for this episode. Would you like to do the outro? Because I have to use the restroom.
Yeah. All right. So, let's get started with this, shall we? So, first off, shout out to the Mopcast Network and Cult Movie Cantina. They are the ones who rent out the space and let us borrow it. Thanks to their generosity, we have a place where this podcast can be filmed. We're very grateful. So you can also, they have their Cult Movie Cantina. You can catch that on Spotify and wherever podcasts are at. That's not very helpful. Normally he does this. Oh yeah, that's a great thing to watch, isn't it? Let's see. Also Tuesdays with Scotty, another Mopcast production. I forget if y'all are doing stuff. I see. So later on in the summer. You can also come to our local gaming shop, Gamers and Geeks, where they have stuff for like D&D, Magic, Warhammer. Basically, if it's a tabletop or a card game of some sort, you probably will be able to find something here. Please help me. I suck at this. So far, Mopcast Network. And was on to Gamers and Geeks.
There's also Engage Gaming.
Yep.
They offer video game rental, like in-house rental, where you just stay in the shop, you pay an hourly rate, you can play on PlayStation, Xbox, PC. So I guess if you want to play Jedi Survivor on PlayStation, there's your option. Usually they provide the games. I actually don't know if they have Jedi Survivor. I haven't looked. But that's a way to do it. They also have VR. Did I say VR?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Which I'm going to try to invest into soon. I'm going to try to get the new PlayStation 2 VR because I want to finally play my Vader Immortal that I bought but never could play. And also they finally added the Tales from Galaxy's Edge to PlayStation as well. What else? Oh yeah, and if you pay the monthly, there's a monthly thing that you can get, membership fee that you can pay, and that reduces the hourly rate of playing games.
Yep.
I think they also do events. Like, I think you can set up events with them.
Oh, there's an arcade in the back.
Oh yeah, for Gamers and Geeks, there's an arcade in the back. Pay $10, you get a wristband that lets you play for the entire day. You don't have to put any coins or anything into the machines. They're free play machines. They got some good machines still. I think they still have all the Mortal Kombats, the originals.
Yep.
What's that? 1 through 4. Yep. So the only ones that were really arcade ones. I think that's it for those, but yeah. I was trying to think of anything else in-house, but yeah, that's it for in-house stuff. Shout out to our Patreon members, which in this case Jennifer Brantley. Yep, your mom.
Yep.
Woo! Yeah, giving us $10 a month. Love it. Although Patreon takes their cut.
Yep.
And with Patreon subscription, you can get access to our YouTube content a week before it's uploaded to YouTube. I need to get back on working on the comic, but the guy that I've been working with, he's been busy. but I'm still wanting to do my comic for Super Worlds. I need to find a new narrator for the audiobook version because I have not heard a word from the person that I was talking to for that. Thankfully, no money exchange. We're just friends, and we were gonna do the split royalties on that, but haven't heard a word from her in a while.
Nothing.
Yeah. So I need a narrator for that because I do want to make an audiobook version of Super Worlds. So, because Audible and audiobooks are where it's at for a lot of. I mean, that's where I listen to Audible all the time. So, I know a lot more people that will listen to an audiobook than will sit down and read. You're one of the few who's like, no, don't give me that audiobook.
You coward! How dare you?
Yeah.
Listen to an audiobook. What are you?
Whenever we have to do an audio drama, you're like, dang it.
I've eased up on them.
Okay.
But an audiobook is different than an audio drama.
Audio drama, it puts you into the world. Audiobook, it's being read to you.
Yeah.
And then Twitch, we don't have anybody right now.
Yeah.
But that is a way you can support us if you don't want to do the Patreon route. We do have Twitch, which you can follow or subscribe, twitch.tv/Escape Reality Films. You might be watching us from Twitch right now, in fact, because we stream on Twitch and YouTube at the same time. If you're watching on YouTube, youtube.com/Escape Reality Films, feel free to like or subscribe to the channel. We're almost at 470 or 370, sorry. 400's the goal for this year. We're almost at 370 subscribers. So if we can get to 400 before the halfway point of this year, I'm going to update the goal to being 500 because ideally we want to get 1,000, but 500 is still a good number to try to push towards because the harder the number that you can reach, the easier it gets eventually. Once you hit that 500, I've heard that's when it's a little bit easier. And then also Discord.
Yes.
Discord is open to everybody. It's an open link that if you're watching on YouTube or Twitch, it is linked. For YouTube, it's linked down below in the little description box. For Twitch, it's linked on the main page. And you can come hang out with us there, and that's where you can listen to us play those one-shots that we were talking about earlier today. Although right now I don't know when the next one will be. But I am working on it. You can also just come hang out with us.
Yep.
Like, we just hang out and...
I need to start showing up there more for, like, events and stuff.
And then, lastly, your thing.
Yep.
Your D&D game that you're part of.
So, the only, I'm not sure if we have a game tomorrow due to it being Memorial Day.
Yeah.
But, if we do, you can catch us over on Steam, all caps, _dungeon.
At twitch.tv.
At twitch.tv. From 5 to 7 in the afternoon, Central Standard Time, where, over on Trials of Naboo, sorry.
Not Naboo as in, like, Star Wars planet, but Naboo.
Yeah. Where, we're having, essentially, a dinner meeting with another rival.
Yeah, because y'all were setting up that last time.
Yeah.
Have y'all started the dinner meeting?
No, because we had to clarify some things about the world and the setting.
Okay. I'm ready for this to go down like the Thanksgiving dinner on Always Sunny.
I
need to show you that. I need to show you that episode.
I'm expecting they to go wrong, but I don't know how it's gonna go down.
We need to bury the hatchet into their back.
No. The weirdest part about playing Simon, the orc barbarian, is that I'm not playing him like a barbarian.
Or an orc.
Or an orc.
But honestly, that's fine because, you know, Wizards is trying to make things more interesting anyways by saying not all orcs are that way anyways.
Well, no. I'm just a barbarian in a 3-piece suit going around and asking questions that maybe I shouldn't be asking in this city filled with gangs.
Oh, boy. Well,
and the occasional cult.
so it sounds like, if not tomorrow, but next week, they'll get to hear the results of this meeting.
I don't know.
All right. Well, still, thank you, everybody. We'll see you all next time with Visions Volume 2.
Yeah.
And y'all have a good Memorial Day if you're here in the States. If you're not, just have a good Sunday.
Have a good one. Bye.
I have spoken.